Hi, everybody. I hope you've been enjoying the retreat. We are going to talk a little bit about conscious wellness right now. So, before we jump in, I just want to quickly introduce myself for those of you that I haven't had a chance to meet during the retreat. My name is Jennifer Roback, and I am a life coach for primarily small businesses, but I'm also a certified holistic wellness coach as well as a yoga teacher trainee. And I'm really excited to talk to you today about conscious wellness. Conscious wellness is a huge part of showing up as a leader and being your best self. So, before we jump in, I'm going to have you close your eyes for a minute and I'm going to read a little something about self love. And I want you to just be in the moment and take it all in. Love yourself until it's real. What does it mean to love yourself? To do nice, nurturing things for and to yourself? Yes, sometimes, but self love runs deeper than that. Self love means loving and accepting yourself, your thoughts, your beauty, emotions, your faults, imperfections, and flaws, your strengths, wit, wisdom, as well as your peculiar and unique way of seeing the world. Loving yourself means accepting and loving each and every part of you and knowing that you're worthy, valuable, and lovable. It means loving and accepting yourself when you're surrounded by people who love you and during those times when you think everyone's gone away, when you wonder if God's gone away too. Sometimes loving ourselves means accepting ourselves enough to tell ourselves other people like and approve of us. Sometimes loving ourselves means approving of ourselves even when they don't. It takes courage to stop cowering and openly love, accept, and approve of ourselves. Wellness, health, and wellness is the ultimate expression of self love. Self care is the ultimate expression of self love. I want to commend all of you for the step you've taken to show up this weekend and participate wholly and be part of the transformation. I want to ask you a few questions to think about for a little bit. So you can keep your eyes closed or you can open them and journal a little bit if you want to while I'm asking questions. Whatever feels right for you. So, what comes up for you when you think about wellness? What does that word wellness mean? What kind of emotions rise up? Do you feel good or bad? Do you start to think about all the shoulds in your life? I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I shouldn't have done this. Want you to think about what wellness has represented in your life. And now I'm going to ask everybody to close their eyes for a minute. Again, if your eyes are open. I want you to take all the stories from the past about self care, wellness, diet, exercise, all of those things holding you back, the stories from your past. And I want you to visualize you cutting the ties, physically cutting the ties that have been holding you down. Or taking those stories that are holding you back and crumpling them up and throwing them away. They no longer exist. It's time to let all of that go and embrace your future. So, let me tell you a little bit about my story and how I ended up where I am today. I've always loved wellness. It's been part of my thought process. At one point, I thought I was going to go to medical school, but then I realized that maybe that wasn't the right expression of health and wellness for me. And I got caught up in a career in corporate retail. working long hours. When you're in your 20s, it's absolutely something you can do. Your body can handle all of the abuse we give it. And so, regardless of the company I was at, I was working long hours, late nights. In one company in particular, this was about 5 years ago, I was working at Lucy Activewear as the head of merchandising. And pretty much every night I was working until 10 p.m. And the only reason why I wasn't working later is because campus security would kick me out. And I wouldn't eat during the day because I just felt I didn't have time. I would grab snacks. So typically, I would be sitting at my desk eating Cheetos or Cheez Its or Doritos or granola bars, and not healthy granola bars, shoving down whatever I could to just keep myself going. There were many dinners. I was in the office alone, sitting at my desk, eating a bag of chips. And if I made it home at a decent time before I collapsed and fell into bed, I might eat some fake food when I got home too, protein shake, cheese and crackers, maybe a peanut butter sandwich, just something, again, like I said, to fuel my body so I could keep going. And surprisingly enough, you would realize I wasn't sleeping at night. I would wake up 2, 3 in the morning, stressed out, probably hungry. Um, and then my brain would kick in and I would start the anxiety reel of worrying about the next day. And, the environment I was working in was pretty toxic. I didn't realize that a chunk of it was my doing as well. So the anxiety reel would start 3 in the morning, thinking about the people I had to deal with in the office, all the work I had to get done. 3 in the morning, I'd get up at 5 a.m., get ready, and go into the office as early as I could because I kept thinking, oh, if I just get through this and get it done, then things will calm down and I can start taking care of myself again. I knew I wasn't taking care of myself, but I just knew the normal things like, oh, I'm not really eating well and I'm not working out. And I was running through life from one meeting to the next, one event to the next. Literally, I just jammed everything in I could. I said yes to everything, and not in a good way, but in a I don't know how to say no to people. I jammed everything in. I didn't enjoy it. I really, even though I was with my friends and family, I wasn't showing up as myself. I didn't have things outside of work that really filled me up, like creative endeavors or educational endeavors. I was at the mercy of my duty to others. I felt like I was a victim of my circumstances. I didn't really realize yet that I had the freedom to create the life that I wanted to create. I thought that this was the world controlling me, and how did this show up to others? Well, I was definitely not my best self. At work, I was gossiping, angry, complaining, not showing up as the kind, empathetic, and compassionate person I am to everybody. I would to some people, but not to everybody. I would snap at people. I would get frustrated. I would huff around. I even had a couple times I cried at work. Um, I didn't realize that the act of not taking care of myself, how detrimental that was to how I was showing up and how it was detracting from who I am at my core. So before, lo and behold, I had started to realize, hey, I'm actually not happy. I'm not enjoying my life. This is miserable. I want out. And thankfully, the universe was listening and decided that my position should be eliminated. And I was not happy about it in the moment. But looking back, I realize that that happened for me to give me a new path to create because I was so entrenched in my old story that I needed something like that to disrupt the cycle. And so during that time where I was really evaluating and thinking about what I wanted for my life, I decided to become a health coach. And it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. I learned so much being a health coach, and I'm going to share some of those things with you. So, before we really jump into sharing of knowledge, one of the first things I want us to do is take a look at this great tool that I acquired when I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. It is called the Circle of Life. And I will say I have modified this a little bit because I wanted to switch it up from what they use at IIN. But here is my modified Circle of Life. So there are 9 different aspects here. And this really shows how wellness, conscious wellness, is a holistic picture of your entire life. It's not just about how you eat or your exercise, even though those two are very easily associated with wellness. It really is about your career and your finances and your social life and your creative endeavors. Wellness is a holistic picture of how you are living your life. So let's talk about each of these a little bit. We can start with spirituality. So, spirituality is not necessarily about religion. Spirituality is about how you tie yourself to something bigger than you. For some of us, that something bigger could be God. It could be, mine is the universe. It could be Mother Nature. You may not have a name for it, but it's just how do we tie ourselves to something bigger than us? Social is really about your relationships and how you take care of them. Do you have a good relationship with your friends and family? Do you communicate with them on a regular basis? Are you meeting new people? um, Creativity, what are you doing to inspire yourself? How does it show up? Is it an artistic endeavor for you? For some of us that might be writing, painting, creating music. It could be dancing, learning. What are you doing to continue to learn new things? And that literally could be new experiences. It doesn't always have to be about education. You don't always have to take a class. Your environment, that's your home environment, your work environment, the environment around you. Is it healthy and clean? Do you maintain it? Do you live in an environment that's close to nature, or is there a lot of pollution? What type of environment are you in? Your career. Career is important for many of us. What does your career look like? Are you showing up as your best self? I know I wasn't. Are you getting to where you want to be in your career? Are you making steps and strides in the right direction? Finances. Are you taking care of your finances? Is your retirement in order? Are you paying your bills on time? Do you have 6 months of saving at least in case something like another pandemic happens again? And then the last two, which we most often associate with wellness, physical, that physical being, taking care of your physical body, and then nutrition. So I want, I'm going to give everybody about 6-ish minutes to first score themselves on the circle of life, or the wellness wheel, if you will. You can use a scale of 1 to 10, and I would pick either the left side or the right side as the line for each of the pieces of the pie to score yourself on. So you could score yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 on spirituality. How satisfied are you with your spirituality? Score yourself here for spirituality, here for social, creativity, and so on. And then I also want you to answer a couple questions once you've scored yourself. So, first, what do you notice about your wheel and the shape of it? And then, what's working for you? What's not working for you? Are you waiting for life to calm down, a pandemic to pass, other circumstances to go away before you start taking care of yourself or any aspect of this wellness wheel, if you will? Have you tried working on any aspects of this wheel but just have not had success or been able to sustain it? So, just some questions to get you thinking about your wellness holistically. So, I'm going to give you 6 minutes. All right. So, this wheel you can revisit once a quarter just to see how things are going. It will help you understand your progress in these areas of your life. So, before we talk about your physical being and nutrition more in depth, I'm going to ask a couple people to share, what did you discover when you scored your wheel and when you journaled? All right, great. Thank you. Okay, so let's talk about nutrition a little bit. So, nutrition, why is it important? And I will say, a lot of this you may know already, but I'm going to frame it up a little differently than you've heard it before. So, nutrition is important because the quality of what you put into your body is important for so many reasons. It helps your body function better. Literally, you get your vitamins, minerals, nutrients that help all the chemical processes in your body work better if you're eating a quality diet. It gives you energy, it improves your mood. So these are really, really important things to keep in mind about the functioning of your body. Sometimes when we are fueling ourselves, we don't remember, hey, actually, if I choose to, instead of eating a bag of Cheez Its for dinner, actually have a salad, I am going to make it easier to function in my job. I am going to have less anxiety. I'm going to be less angry. Actually, what you eat can help affect how you show up. The other important thing is that it reinforces the message you're telling yourself. So if you are eating processed food all the time, what do you think the message is that you're telling yourself? I'm not worth it. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. And we just continue to feed into those emotions. Eating is such an emotional process. If you're eating quality fruits and vegetables and lean proteins, you're telling yourself, I am worth it. I deserve to eat better. I want to fuel my body and take care of it. I want to show up as my best self. So, when we recognize and we're aware of the fact that eating has so much emotion tied to it, it gives us the ability to make decisions about how to fuel ourselves from a place of awareness. So let's talk about the emotional aspect of eating a little bit more. If you think about all the major things that happen in any culture or country, it all revolves around food. All your birthdays have typically involved a birthday cake, or if not, it's some other sort of dessert that you typically love. There's usually a meal associated with it. If you think about maybe you had a routine as a family, Friday nights were pizza nights. That creates this emotional nostalgia around eating pizza. If you think about the holidays, I mean, I am very aware of the fact that I expect traditional holiday food at the holidays. It's not or Thanksgiving if we're not eating turkey and mashed potatoes. There's so much emotion tied to the act of what we eat and how that relates to connection with other people. If when you were a kid and every time you were upset, your grandma baked cookies for you, that means as an adult, more often than not, every time you're upset, you're going to crave cookies. So, really understanding how much emotion is tied to eating, even when we feel like we should or should not be eating something, the emotion that comes with it from that aspect too. If we really recognize how much emotion we bring to the table every time we eat, it's really important. It can help us make decisions from an awareness point of view or help us be conscious about our wellness. So, for example, my husband and I, before the pandemic, used to love to go to movies on Friday nights. And I loved that moment for us to have together. And one of the things that I love about going to the movies is eating popcorn. I really like popcorn. So I've associated eating popcorn with this act of connection and going to the movies and being entertained. What I discovered as a health coach and in my health journey is corn is not good for me in almost every variety, but especially in popcorn. Popcorn typically makes me very tired the next day. And so for the longest time, I didn't see that connection at all. Just go to the movies, eat a bunch of popcorn, and the next day I would wonder why I was tired and I felt off and I didn't know what was going on. It's because I ate corn. So now I have the ability to understand that I've associated popcorn with this nostalgia for connecting with people and being entertained. But when I eat it, I don't feel great the next day. So at least I know, and I'm still making that decision as opposed to just mindlessly going through and eating stuff and then wondering why I don't feel great. So you don't have to be crazy and restrict yourself. As a matter of fact, I do not advocate for that type of approach to nutrition. I feel like it sets people up for failure because it's not sustainable. My approach that I advocate is called, and it's the same approach that the Institute for Integrative Nutrition advocates, it's called crowding out. Just start adding more fruits, vegetables, lean proteins to how you already eat. Eventually, you will start noticing shifts that happen. So, for instance, let's go back to having family pizza on Friday nights. One of my nostalgic moments. We would have pizza and watch a movie as a family. So I love eating pizza. And I haven't forbade myself from eating pizza, even though, dairy is another thing that's really not great for me. But, something you can do or something I do is I try to add in some sort of vegetable with it. As opposed to just having pizza, let's have a salad. Or, let's make sure because I know that gluten can really affect me too. Let's make sure that we're ordering pizza from a high quality place and it's not just Domino's. Let's get a nice pizza with a thin crust and not a ton of cheese on it. So, making those decisions and just making little changes have helped me feel better, both emotionally and physically, when I'm eating things that, in the past we might think of as forbidden foods. So, literally, just start adding in more fruits, vegetables, and lean proteins. The less processed food you eat from boxes and cans, the better. And something that's really good to do is just journal and monitor how you feel when you eat. How do you physically feel and how do you emotionally feel? You don't necessarily have to journal and then feel like you have to do something crazy with it. It's literally just to cultivate awareness. It gives you that ability to see patterns in, certain foods that might not make you feel great and make conscious decisions about I know that popcorn doesn't make me feel good. Do I want to make the decision to eat it or do I want to skip it this time and save it for another time? Now, I will point out there are a couple foods that I really want people to think about a little bit more deeply than just adding in fruits, vegetables, and lean proteins, and those are caffeine and sugar. So, if anyone has a lot of stress in their life or anxiety, they have a hectic schedule, I would highly recommend, just for all people in general, to remove caffeine and sugar from your diet. Caffeine and sugar contribute to anxiety, contribute to stress. They are not good if you are trying to show up as your best self and come at your day from a grounded and balanced place. So if you consume a lot of caffeine and sugar, those are two that I would just say start pulling them back. Caffeine, switch from coffee, maybe it's taking down the cups of coffee you drink every day or switching from coffee to tea. um, Sugar, it could be switching from processed sugars, it could be candy or sweets to more natural sugars like apples, bananas, carrots have a decent amount of sugar in them too. Start switching out of consuming so much caffeine and sugar, especially if you're someone who has a lot of stress and anxiety in your life. And then last but not least, Water is the source of all good things. So, drinking plenty of water is huge. If you feel like how you nourish your body needs an overhaul, the first thing I would start with is just drinking more water. Everybody should drink about half their body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you should drink about 75 ounces of water every day. Water is needed to eliminate toxins. So if you eat something that doesn't make you feel good, just start drinking water to flush out your system. Water helps boost your energy because it helps your body function the way it's supposed to. It lubricates your joints and it helps care for your brain. Dehydration can increase anxiety and depression. So just start with drinking water if you feel like you need to start moving in a different direction when it comes to nutrition. So, next, let's talk about your physical being. Movement is so important for your overall health. We were not created to be sedentary beings. We are meant to be active and on the go. The more active you are, the healthier you are. Um, I mean, if you can get movement throughout the day, stand while you work, you're going to be in a really great place. I've heard officials say lately that sedentary is the new smoking, and that is absolutely true. Without movement, it's harder for our body to eliminate toxins. It's harder for our body to function the way it's supposed to. But movement also adds benefits like reducing stress. It helps you sleep better. It makes you less anxious because it releases endorphins. It improves your confidence because it can help with your self image. It increases cognitive function and memory by having a positive effect on the hippocampus. And like I mentioned, it just gives you more energy. So sometimes physical activity seems like a major undertaking for people. They feel like, oh, I have to join a gym or a yoga studio or do all these things. And you really don't. Just move every day, even if it's only for 15 minutes. It could be to climb the stairs. Um, if you live in an apartment in your apartment building or your house, it could be just to go for a walk around the block or a walk that's, 8 minutes out and 8 minutes back. It could be to do a little yoga routine in your living room. Literally just move for 15 minutes every day, especially if you're sitting. If you're sitting all day, you should try to get up and move for a couple minutes every hour, or at least try to stand while you're working as much as possible. And you know what? That 15 minutes will grow. So just start with 15 minutes. If you are someone who has not been getting a lot of physical activity, start with the 15 minutes and make it easy. Make it something that brings you joy and allows you to play. It doesn't have to be complicated and boring and feel like a chore. Just really give yourself a moment to jump around, dance for 15 minutes, go for a walk, do yoga. If you go for a walk in nature, you get a powerful 2 for 1. You're outside in nature, which is so great for your mood, and you're moving yourself. You could do yoga. Yoga is another powerful 2 for 1 because it's a meditative movement. So just add those into your day. And you know what? Physical activity, if you decide you do want to do yoga at home, there's a ton of free YouTube videos out there that you can jump right into that are anywhere from 15 minutes to 45 minutes to an hour. Um, so just start incorporating physical activity in where you can in your day. So, sleep is also a very important part of your physical being. You need to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. Anything less than 7 starts to affect your mortality. The shorter your sleep, the shorter your life. This also applies conversely to anything over 9 hours. Getting a good night's sleep affects everything. I think we know. I mean, I know I've had moments where I didn't get a good night's sleep, and guess what? I was a huge jerk at the office the next day. So, powerful night's sleep can really set you up for success. So, let's talk about what to do to make this happen. If you feel like I've listed a lot of different things with respect to nutrition and physical activity or your physical being, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, where do I begin? So, one of the first things to recognize is there's no one size fits all. There's no magic pill, there's no magic diet that works for everybody. There are, definitely pills and diets and exercises that do work for some people, but this is a great opportunity for you to experiment and come up with a ritual, a wellness ritual that works for you in your unique life. How that looks for everybody is different. How much time you have to devote on any given day is different. What type of activities bring you joy and help you feel grounded and contribute to your overall wellness is different. So, each of us gets to experiment to develop a routine and a ritual that really fits into our life. But the first thing you have to do is get crystal clear about your priorities. How have you been spending your time? Take a look at your calendar. Does it line up with what's important to you? Are you on your calendar? What's on there that's helping you get closer to living the life that you want to live versus not helping you get closer to your goals? I know for me, there have been days, months, maybe, where there's been a lot of time spent watching Netflix. And granted, that wasn't on my calendar, but it was a typical part of my routine every day. And what I realized is spending my time watching Netflix over and over again is not getting me closer to the life I want to live. So, one of the things I've done there is I've said, we'll watch it if it's educational and we can actually learn something from it. So I didn't, swing the pendulum and say, nope, no more watching TV. That's it. It's more about how do we watch quality content as opposed to mindless content. Sure, there's still a fun rom com every once in a while, but what we're consuming on TV definitely is contributing to helping educate us on topics that we think are more important. Um, so once you really understand your priorities, and I'm going to have you make a note about this because we're going to have a moment to break off and journal. So once you get clear about your priorities and you start to set your foundation for self care, identify your one non negotiable and start there. So for me, my non negotiable is meditation. I have to meditate every day. And if I don't, I know that I'm going to have a little harder time being set up for success. So think about your one non-negotiable and start there. And then you can build on it. If you have not a lot of time one day, for me, if I don't have a lot of time, I can meditate for 5 minutes. But if I have more time, it could be meditate and add a yoga practice in. And if there's even more time, I could journal as well. So, an important way to protect that time is to set boundaries and ask for help where you need it. One of the things that's worked really well for me is to really set aside time for my wellness practice first thing in the morning. So I know that if I leave it until later in the day, and it does happen sometimes where I do need to leave it until later in the day, but if I do it first thing in the morning, there's a lower chance of interruption or something else getting in the way. And it also helps set me up for success for the day. It really creates the tone for the next, let's say, 16 hours. All right. So, given everything that I just shared about nutrition and how to approach nutrition and physical activity, we are going to have a moment to journal a little bit. So, I want everyone to get a piece of paper ready. And what I want you to journal about is what would be your ideal wellness day? Perfect day where you would spend, going back to the circle of life or the wheel of wellness, if you will. What would your day look like if it was focused on wellness? Of that, what is your one wellness non negotiable? Has to happen every day. What could a daily wellness ritual look like for you? Now, for me, one of the things I like to do is I really like to use my calendar to build it out. All right, so I'm going to have you break into groups. I'm going to have you take the first 5 minutes to journal about your ideal wellness day and what a ritual would look like for you. And I want you to hone in on your non negotiable. And then after 5 minutes, group leaders, I want you to have everybody in the group share what they came up with, because hearing what other people have to say can help inspire you to create a wellness ritual that works for you. All right, so I'm going to give everybody 15 minutes. All right. How's it going, everybody? Okay, I'm going to ask a couple people to share. Actually, one person from every group. If we can get one person from every group to share, that would be great. Tell us what aha moment you had and just what your wellness ritual looks like. All right, great. Okay, so wrapping it up, I want everyone to just remember this is a journey. It's all about experimenting and finding out what works for you. And that can change from time to time. I had a moment recently where I thought I had a good wellness routine going. It took us a little bit, I think, all of us in the pandemic to figure out what wellness looked like for us. I thought I had a great routine going. And then the time change and winter happened. And I remembered, oh, I need to tweak what I'm doing. It has to look a little different now because the time change just wasn't working in my favor. So remember, it's all about experimenting and finding what works for you. It's different for each person at different stages of their lives, time of year, locations. Um, so remember, it's about the experiment. The easy thing you can do is keep a journal about what is working, what's going well, and what's not working to build awareness and help you understand where you might need to modify a little bit. Break it down. Sometimes when we start new wellness rituals, it can be very overwhelming because we have a tendency to want to jump in and just do everything at once. Break it down. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? And what steps do you need to take to get there? The journey doesn't ever really end per se. So just there's no rush or prize if you get to the finish line. Just understand this is your life. You get to make conscious decisions every day about how you want to take care of yourself. And just break it down and understand what steps you need to take to get to where you want to be. Add healthy behaviors all around. That could be food, adding healthy food to your diet. That could be adding meditation. Add healthy behaviors, food to crowd out and not make time, space, or energy for what isn't serving you. And remember, I this is a phrase that I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with, if you will, but it's all about progress and not perfection. You don't need to be perfect at it. Nobody's keeping score. If you are focusing on perfection, it's probably a lot of outside judgment that's clouding how you see what's happening. And you get to decide what you spend your time and energy on can either bring you closer to your goals or not. So I want to thank everybody for your time today, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. I was so thrilled to be a part of this retreat and just share my knowledge with all of you on conscious wellness.